Please welcome Peter Yang.
All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our session on how to use analytics to grow and monetize your experience. My name is Peter. I am the product lead for Creator Analytics at Roblox. And let me welcome on stage our three amazing creators. All right, Alex, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Hey guys, I'm Alex. On Roblox, I go by Badcc, and I'm the co-creator of Jailbreak.
Ahoy everyone, I'm Minitoon. I made a game called Piggy. Thank you.
Hello, I am Erythia. I'm the co-founder of Sonar Studios and director of creativity now at Twin Atlas.
All right, want to sit down? All right, so we'll start with a quick update on analytics, and then we'll spend most of our time diving into real tactics that these top creators used to grow their experiences. All right, so our mission for analytics is to guide all of you to take the most important actions to grow your creations. And we've been shipping a lot of stuff this year. Recently, we launched real-time stats and error report to help you improve your performance and fix errors. We built a new audience page that shows you your user breakdown by age, country, language, and gender for the very first time. So you can use this to prioritize content updates and also get brand sponsors. And this month, we are going to launch our Insights product to everyone to help you focus on the most important metrics to grow. And last but not least, we are working on avatar analytics so that you can track sales and revenue overall and also per item. But let's go back to the metrics that matter for growing a great Roblox experience. What's up? Letting everyone in right now. So broadly, there are three categories of metrics: engagement and retention, monetization, and acquisition. So in other words, make a fun game that players want to come back to, help them invest in your game, and then attract new players in roughly that priority order. So let's start with engagement and retention. To get users to come back to your experience, think about two things. Core loop is the key actions that users repeat to make progress. Get users to the fun as quickly as possible by avoiding long tutorials, offering rewards, and making it social. Progression is how users level up and make progress in your experience. Give them clear goals to work towards, help them track progress, and give them a fair challenge. Now I want to welcome Alex to talk about improving engagement and retention for Jailbreak.
Thank you, Peter. So to discuss engagement and retention, we'll first look at Jailbreak's core loop, focusing on exploration, completing objectives, and powering up. Jailbreak is big on contextual onboarding, which is to say we don't really have any tutorials, but we do have helpful hints around the game, like these footsteps, which guide players to the important parts. I like to think of it as a watch and learn social experience. Upon joining Jailbreak, you choose to play on the prisoner team or the police team. The prisoners escape and try to become criminals, and the police hunt them down. It's just like a game of tag, and everyone knows how to play before they even join the game. So how can we measure exploration in Jailbreak? We have a series of analytics funnels that we've created to measure progression through the game, such as joining the game, being in a cell, how you escape prison, whether you make it to the city, what robberies you're doing first in the city. And years later, we actually tried adding more conventional guided tutorials through the UI, but we found this actually didn't increase our progression metrics, and we were kind of confused. Potentially our audience had just already watched and learned over the several years, and also maybe they learned to go find YouTube videos like this one to learn how to play anyway. Objectives in Jailbreak. So as a criminal, you learn really quickly that getting caught sucks, but avoiding it is entirely in your control. But to earn more money, you have to engage in riskier situations. We call these anti-objectives, and these are very important to us. You have objectives like robbing the bank, and then you have anti-objectives like getting caught doing it. How can we measure anti-objectives? You can imagine you can measure when a player leaves the game after an anti-objective, and potentially this might be a bad metric, a bad signal, and you say, oh, maybe this anti-objective is causing people to leave the game. But this is where analytics are tricky, because maybe the player is going to come back in a few days, even more invigorated, maybe even willing to spend some money to advance faster. In Jailbreak, powering up means earning money. For criminals, this is robbing banks, jewelry stores, cargo planes, and more. How can we measure powering up? We keep track of how much the average player earns, which robberies are paying out the most, and also where in the world they're physically earning this money. Now that we know how much the average player is making in an hour, we can take action on this in pricing our developer products. Let's say we want to add a new developer product, and we want to price it such that when you buy it, it advances you maybe 3 or 6 hours as far as cash earning potential goes in the game. Moving on to progression, this is our garage, and this garage presents short, medium, and long-term progression goals. We measure what people are buying. Most of the cash in Jailbreak is earned rather than purchased, so for us, this garage is much more about progression than it is monetization. And for that reason, we sort the garage by popularity rather than what might earn us the most revenue. We recently made it possible to purchase vehicles through the garage. Previously, you'd actually find the vehicle in the game and then press a little prompt on it. And now 40% of all of our purchases happen in the garage UI. And we did this like 4 or 5 years into Jailbreak. This doesn't mean that our sales are up 40%, but it does mean that we've reduced a lot of friction for our players. We also recently just added a featured sort, which shows about 6 items per week to players, which hopefully decreases the overwhelming feeling of a new user seeing hundreds of items in our garage. We also provide progression through seasons and leaderboards. We have a season pass system where over the course of 2 months, players can earn XP by completing contracts and level up and get items. And this is great because now when we have content and we drop it, people can't just earn the content in the next few days. It forces them to do it over the course of 2 months. And we've seen good impact on our day 7 and day 30 retention because of this. So that core loop is very vital to Jailbreak's success. And now I'd like to pass it on to Minitoon to talk about Piggy.
Thank you very much. Ahoy, everyone, and thanks, Alex. Wow, this guy knows his stuff, you know. So, all right, we're going to talk briefly about the initial core loop of Piggy and its retention. So at its core, Piggy is a story game. It's built around these chapters, which are levels containing sequential stories. Initially, retention was solely driven by players wanting to follow the story. And it was just simply, the core loop was just solving puzzles, completing the chapter, and moving on to the next. As it turns out, that's not the best idea because, well, big problems. It needs a lot of maintenance on my end. I need to constantly work hard and release a major story update in order to satiate the consumer's profound hunger for more content. So, players will only experience the content update once. They play through the new chapter, find out what happens, and then they wait for the next. It was structured like a TV show with a weekly release. Personally, I don't know anybody who will watch the same episode of a TV show over and over and over again when it comes out besides me. So the majority of viewers will just watch it once and be done with it. And in addition to that, I can't keep the story dragging on forever without wanting to I can't keep the story going on forever without filling it with filler and filling it with all sorts of bloated stuff. It doesn't really get to the point. And so on and so forth. Basically, I'm not a super creative genius and can't come up with story that goes on forever. So how do I fix this? How do I keep players coming back? So 2 parts make up the structure of the Piggy game. There's the story and the gameplay. As such, I like to group Piggy players into 2 groups, the story enjoyers and the gameplay gamers. I need to satisfy both types of players just enough to keep them coming back for more. For the story side of things, what we did is we added pages. They are collectible items around the map that players can find in order to learn more about the Piggy cinematic universe and the mystery surrounding it. We also introduced multiple endings to important chapters. So this encourages players to go back and replay old chapters to see what happens differently in the story. As different endings lead into more different endings, the story kind of branches out into a big web or tree of story branches for players to follow and explore. Am I forgetting something? Oh, right, the gameplay. So it's just as important as the story itself to me. What we did for gameplay retention was introduce collectible blueprints. These blueprints serve to unlock different abilities throughout the story and the chapters. So the players can use them to help them navigate through the chapters better. Some abilities work better for different chapters than others, so experimentation is encouraged for maximum efficiency. Last but not least, we added a tool for some UGC. An aspect that a lot of games overlook and is highly underappreciated is custom content that players can produce themselves. So we made build mode for players to be able to create and share custom maps, stories, cutscenes, and even game modes using assets from across Piggy. Players love to come back and check out others' creations or even work on their own. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of miss the sound of Peter's voice, so I'm going to pass it off to him to speak about monetization.
All right, thanks so much, Minitoon. So let's talk about monetization next. So to get users to invest in your experience, focus on two things. Free-to-paid conversion is the percent of users that engage with your paid content. To improve this, think about monetization from the start. Consider shop visibility, starter packs, and discounts for new purchasers. Second metric is revenue per payer, which is how much the average revenue that each paying user spends. To improve this, just have a diverse set of items for users to buy. And this can include seasonal items, or it can include repeat purchases. If you see an insight in your analytics dashboard like this, or if you see your monetization metric well below the benchmark, the area in the graph, then chances are you should probably think about improving monetization. So now let me pass it over to Mary to talk about monetization for Dragon Adventures.
Thank you, Peter. All right, so the goal of monetizing your games is to surface well-designed monetization UX. That way your players have a comfortable and positive interaction with your UI, and you generate revenue. So we improve shop discoverability by having bright, shiny, and colorful UI, and making sure our icons are premium, such as coins, diamonds, jewels. We want this UI to invite the player to explore and interact and see what's available without extra click friction. So with all this in mind, our UI for premium purchases should encourage players to have a positive experience for the customer and increase the likelihood of repurchases in the future. First of all, I'd like to talk about item diversity, and this is where we're providing the user with various options based on how they interact with the game. Many players have a unique experience with your game and desire various purchases based off of that. Your purchases should consist of currency, cosmetics, in-game items, boosts, and even packs. Based on your own unique game, you should offer items that enhance your unique genre and gaming experience. These purchases should enhance the player's session, help them progress, or provide them with a unique bonus. All right, so random purchases. Random purchases are very useful because it's a highly repeatable action that generates revenue and even gameplay time. Though while RNG purchases are really awesome, you want to consider players' happiness when interacting with these mechanics. You should provide pity systems and fair rates to guarantee success and happiness with extended player use. You can also use RNG within your game mechanics to entice players to make purchases to better engage and boost themselves to obtain these RNG items, such as lucky boosts. Next, you want to target your sales. This is where you closely identify the niche interactions within your own game experience. This is how your purchase can directly impact the user's individual session. You want to consider why and how players are wanting to look cool, why they want to progress faster, if they're wanting to troll or have an upper hand with trading within your game. You also want to balance your monetized players with the free-to-play players so everybody's happy in the end. All right, and I want to let you all know that you should keep in mind your game genre alone should influence how aggressively you approach monetization and what you offer. It's very important when you're coming up with your strategies, and it's important to track your monetization graphs and note your changes or additions and how they impact these graphs. Learning how to read these graphs and iterate on them and make successful decisions is very important. And you can also set up your own analytics and track them uniquely within your game. We do this in Creatures of Sonaria just to see what unique mechanics players are interested in. And I will pass this back to Peter.
Thanks so much. All right, last but not least, let's talk about acquisition. So you can acquire new users through on-platform and off-platform channels. For on-platform, our recommendations care about engagement, retention, monetization, and relevance, which is impressions to plays for your experience. So use the tips that we already covered to build a great experience and test different icons and other metadata to try to improve your impressions to plays. For off-platform, there are many channels to acquire users, from community to social to YouTube. Without further ado, let me hand it back to Mary to walk through acquisition.
Thank you, Peter. Okay, so for game acquisition, it's important to consider the scattered nature of our audiences, where some of them are on Discord, they're following our social medias, and some are restricted purely to Roblox. So what we do is we update our game title, our description, and even our icon. That way we can help surface our updates clearly to our audience who is all over the place. It's important that we also use our social links where possible to tie together our game groups, social platforms, and even developer profiles to help players learn about us sometimes. You also want to bridge the connection of communication between your dev team and YouTubers. It's important that you're providing YouTubers with in-game benefits to easily advertise your experience and help them make your game feel like a positive experience. Official socials also can help inform players of major upcoming updates. And I will pass it back to Alex.
Thank you, Mary. Off-platform acquisition has been huge for Jailbreak. As I alluded to earlier, our YouTube community, I see some of you here, makes up for our lack of tutorials and details our new content releases. We don't even really have a changelog in Jailbreak. We try to find unique ways to engage with YouTubers. We have tire rims that have YouTubers' names on them that we continue to give out. And we like to give our creators codes that they can also give those items to their users. And now I'm going to pass it back to Minitoon.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Piggybacking off of what others have said about on and off platform discovery, I'd like to throw in my own 2 cents. In today's modern day and age, people might not have the time or attention span for a whole update log or a detailed video. So being able to communicate update info in a tiny little post is a fast, simple, and effective way to keep your audience informed and up to date. Personally, I like to use platforms such as Instagram and Twitter. X. Instagram and Twitter are fantastic platforms for these types of posts. Having a dedicated message board or platform for your audience to discuss all things related to your game experience is very important. It gives your audience a home to talk about and share all types of art in relations to your work and so on and so forth. So how sweet of them. I like to use platforms such as Discord, Guilded, and even the Roblox groups. You like that one, don't you? As Erythia stated, there we go, sorry. As Erythia stated earlier, teasing little leaks to updates stirs up conversation. So your audience is going to band together and start coming up with all sorts of theories. It might even pique the interest of many others outside your community to find out more about what you're teasing. Make sure you also treat your community as an extension of your work, because the truth is they are. Without them, your projects won't go as far as they could go. So treat them wonderfully and make them feel special. Also, do you guys hear knocking? Oh my goodness gracious, it's digital footprints. Everybody stay calm. As long as nobody posts anything anywhere that could potentially harm your appearance or brand online like I have, we should be in the clear. Seriously though, be respectful of others and yourself online. You are associated with your brand and you want to make sure that you don't drag it down. What goes around comes around, so be positive. And I guess that's all from me. So I'm going to pass it back to Peter in his lovely voice to wrap things up.
All right, thanks so much. So let's wrap up. So to grow your experience, focus on engagement and retention, monetization, and acquisition in roughly that priority order. Make your game fun for users to return to by improving your core loop and your progression. help users invest in your experience by improving free-to-pay conversion and revenue per payer. Finally, attract new users through both on-platform and off-platform channels. All right, so now I'd like to invite our creators to join us on stage, and we'll answer any Q&A.
Are these?
Oh, the mics are in the middle of the tent.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michael. I head up a lot of the analytics efforts for Sawhorse Interactive, doing a lot of the branded experiences. Currently, I was really interested in the first part of the presentation where we talked about funnels and kind of tracking users as they go through your experience. It's something we've been thinking a lot about. Roblox Analytics has had a lot of improvements recently, and shout out for that. They've been awesome. But funnels and kind of tracking that isn't something that is currently supported with the analytics dashboard. Is that something we can expect to see in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spoil things, but that will be our main focus next. And I would love for everyone here to build it with us and give us feedback.
Great. And is that something that we can set up like custom events for that I could track different? That's something that's really useful to us that we currently have to use third parties for.
That is the goal.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of similarly to that question, I'm wondering what are the analytics solutions that you use to get those custom events, since Roblox doesn't support it right now?
Yeah, for us, I use game analytics and then some in-house solutions that I built.
Yeah, same here. I mean, we look at Roblox's game analytics mostly, but we do have game analytics off-platform that tell us a lot more valuable information about the player's experience even.
And I use webhooks sometimes too, in addition to the things that these guys use. So.
Okay, thanks.
When it comes to releasing game updates and wanting to get players back into the game, what do you guys do specifically when it comes to update schedule? Is once a week too much, or what do you guys do for your own games?
Yeah, good question. I was telling someone that I feel like Jailbreak in some way might have started the curse that is like routine weekly updates back in the day. So yeah, for like 2 years we did weekly updates. That was a lot for us to manage as a small studio. Now we do monthly updates. General rules of thumb is we do it on a Friday right before kids have the whole weekend to play, and we just engage with them to see what they want.
Yeah, same here. We update every single Friday, most of our projects, and the players are pretty much all aware of this company-wide, which is really fun. So yeah.
I would say, honestly, take it at your own pace. If you can try a weekly update basis, but if it's too much for you, it might be best to give yourself more time so you don't experience burnout or stress or anything like that. So take care of yourself first. Yeah.
Hello. For monetization, we've had this thing where we've seen that players only monetize after 6 or 7 sessions, and after that, the monetization rate goes up a lot. But that means like a lot of monetization things that we do sometimes can feel like they're lagging behind other analytics or metrics because we think it takes repeat exposure for players to decide to buy something. This hypothesis might be wrong, but how do you deal with like lagging metrics where you might not get feedback on your monetization tactics or plans until like a week, a month, or several months later, and that trend line is then obvious, but it's been 3 months?
Yeah, I totally know what you're saying. It can be really hard, but we kind of just have to remember what updates we're making and then see where anything spikes to see if we actually made an impact. So yeah, it's a lot of long-term keeping up with what we're doing and repeating those same updates that are obviously being really positive.
Yeah, same here. We always look retroactively.
Like as a quick follow-up question, how often do you go back and look at those metrics? Is it like a monthly review, or is it weekly, or like how do you actually know?
Yeah, it's definitely weekly, and then kind of just like a monthly oversight to see everything and kind of plan on that in the future if we want to continue with that monetization kind of, yeah.
Thank you, James.
Kind of two separate questions. I know for Jailbreak, you mentioned that you were doing some analytics in player location and what they were interacting with, and I think I remembered at a previous talk that you, for Jailbreak specifically, there was like a sort of heat map in terms of where player locations are, like where players were interacting with.
Yeah.
I was wondering sort of how that fits into the broader sort of vision for and strategy for just keeping players engaged, like balancing or monetization.
Yeah, great question. So for anyone that doesn't know, one of the in-house things that we built is I have a mini map where I can see where every single player in the whole game across all servers is in aggregate in real time. And we use this to plan where we might put other robberies. We mostly just want to make sure people are spread out, right? Because our game is a lot about combat and like the tension between the police and the criminal. And so if we feel like everyone's congregating in the city, we'll maybe think about spreading people out to utilize other parts of the map. Yeah, we look at this whenever we add a new robbery, and we try to make sure that the cash earning locations are spread out so people have to actually like use their vehicles, which we're monetized on, to get to those locations and things like that.
Awesome.
Yep, good question.
And then for, there was also mention about player archetypes and monetizing for different things and sort of personalizing those purchases or making sure that all these player archetypes are engaged. I was wondering whether that is something that is done sort of in the design phase of these experiences, or whether or not it's something that's sort of that just evolves over time, and it's like as you release it, you realize, oh, this group of players sort of enjoy doing this thing that we just completely didn't think about.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think it's really interesting because a lot of the time we set up, base monetization where we have everything that everybody else has, currency, some boosts, some items. But then where I kind of said with specific and targeted sales, we're looking at what the community is posting about, what they're really engaging with. And in Creatures of Sonaria, a lot of players love the customization. So that's where we introduced a unique skin overlay mechanic, and players really love that because, where you're usually just super colorful and bright, these new purchases that we added make you look like a volcano or, a literal galaxy nebula. So those do really well, and we kind of just see what the players are up to and what they're wanting.
Awesome, thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Andrew.
Do you guys use UGC to grow your experiences, and what are some insights you have around that?
So by UGC, you mean the avatar items, right?
Yes, UGC items.
Do you guys use UGC?
Do you?
Yeah. So recently we kind of hopped on the bandwagon of putting UGC in our games. And those are kind of like, you put the UGC banner up and it's like free UGC, just come play our game for a couple of hours or however long it may be. And you do see, spikes when players come to your game. But I think the ultimate goal with that is you don't want to just see your numbers temporarily spike. You want to keep those players as permanent players. You want to bring them on to your game and keep them. So for me, I really like UGC items that have you interact with exciting core game mechanics. That way they stay a permanent player for you. Another thing that we've done before is having timers for your UGC items, kind of like live ops updates. Let players know that there will be a UGC item coming soon and have a timer for that live in-game. That's really helpful. Or what we're doing is another lore building fun experience where all the players get together and they decrypt languages and they come together and get really excited about these upcoming items.
Yeah, I would add, I guess tangentially to UGC, not like the UGC you guys have heard about all week, but we have monthly fan contests for people to design new vehicles and rims and all the different customizations. And I've had numerous people tell me that they've learned how to 3D model because they love Jailbreak and they knew we held these contests and they want to see us put their things in the game. And so they win these contests, and a lot of our assets are sourced from our community, which I call UGC, and I think that's amazing.
Very cool, thank you.
Yep.
For acquisition, y'all mentioned to regularly change the name, icon, description. Does that take the game out of the algorithm, or are we free to do that as many times as we want?
I don't think it takes the game out of the algorithm.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah, our game still has players, so I don't think it takes it out of the alg.
I was told that changing the title does, but it seems to work well for you.
Yeah, it works fine for us, so I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Hi. You talked about giving UGC after people have got so far in the game. How are you doing that? Are you saying get to level 3? Are you saying, like, is there a specific in-game action that you use that is so far into the game and you use that to unlock the UGC, or is it just a timer and you're like, oh, after playing for 3 hours, we give you a pop-up and like, here you go?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of kind of seeing what players, interact with the core loop in your project. And we did kind of start out just by, testing the waters of the UGC, giving them some light tasks, but then you kind of find that players get the hats really fast. Players really love free stuff. So if it's a little bit too easy, they're going to get all of your UGC very quickly, where if it's more mid to late game, players are going to take a couple days to get those items, and then it'll last longer.
And there's no sort of backlash to that? It's not like, hey, you said this was free and now I'm got to grind or I got to work or whatever? People are like, cool, I still want the free thing?
I haven't really seen that, no.
Cool.
In my experience, I've gotten all types of backlash, because I've done this many times, not with UGC, but with like custom skins where we've done little obbies or puzzles, and you will always have some people who complain it's too difficult, or some people who complain it's too easy. So finding that balance can be tricky, and it definitely has to be more specific and tailored to your core loop. And I think that's what's important to keep in mind.
Yeah, that was very cool. Thank you.
This topic kind of meshes into two things. One of them's more for Peter, but there's some games out there that allow you to purchase Game Pass for your friends via the use of developer products. And I wanted to know what kind of impact, if you guys used that for your games before, that has, and if Roblox in the future might add like an official way to do that.
Yeah, we offer this feature for sure, and it has great impact. I don't have stats off the top of my head, but I would say it's definitely worthwhile. So this is like allow people to purchase Game Passes for their friends. Like our season pass, you can purchase for friends, and it's huge. Yeah.
I don't have that feature, but I probably should get it.
Yeah.
I think it should be added to Roblox. No pressure.
Yeah, I think if it's a tactic that can help you guys grow your games, we're definitely open to consider it.
Awesome, thanks.
Good question.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have today. I think we'll be hanging around outside if you want to ask us more questions. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.